Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It was raining the entire morning. It was cold and miserable out, but now the sun has come out in the afternoon. I spent the whole morning tinkering around in the greenhouse here. I'll show you what I did. I don't know what happened to our sunny day. I just finished the intro there and the clouds rolled in and it's starting to rain once again, so maybe there will be no sunshine this afternoon. Let's have a look at what I was tinkering around on. I brought out Natiri from Avatar underneath my Ficus microcarpa here. Kind of cool. I also put some blocks underneath the pot to raise it up so I can fit the feet under here. So it's supported in the middle and by the 4 feet. So as I said before, I will be fixing this pot up. I'm going to make a wooden pot the same size, transfer the tree to the wooden pot, and then I'll fix this one up. I'm going to make an aluminum plate for the bottom, screw all the plastic to it, align it all, and yeah, fix it up so I can use it as a display pot. I brought out a few more plants. I brought out my little rock penjing here, my Bougainvillea, give a little color in the greenhouse. I made a bonsai stand. I had this scrap piece of wood left over from the plant room. I added some feet underneath. I'll take it off and show you what it looks like. So here's the stand. It's just a big piece of wood, and then I added two feet to the bottom. So it's not very nice looking, but it's a good stand. You can set your tree on it. It looks better than having no stand at all. So yeah, you can make simple stands for all your trees, kind of on the bench, getting them up to the right height and all that kind of thing. It's also a good idea. You can make your own stand, a simple one like this, to figure out what kind of size looks best with your tree in the pot. So it's kind of like a rough stand, and then you can take this to a bonsai store and try and find a really nice stand of the same size and proportions. So yeah, so it's a good idea to make up simple stands just to try them out with your tree in the pot. I've also brought in a few more trees. I've got Zin's lychee tree that he gave me. I've got a few succulents here, the ones Isabella gave me, some of the ones that Andrew gave me. There's a pot that Isabella made there with a Ficus religiosa in it. There's the Wynard jade. Scott Wynard sent me that from the UK. It's doing well. I brought in my Brazilian rain tree. It's so cold outside, and we just had rain all fall, and it wasn't doing so well. So I thought I better bring it in, warm it up, get it looking a little stronger. So it's this is its first day in the greenhouse, so I think it'll do quite well in here. It'll recover and start growing nicely, I hope. What else? I've got my Ficus religiosa in here, my Ficus microcarpa in the Vietnam style pot, and another Ficus microcarpa, similar pot. I brought in my fig tree over here, the one with the fig growing on top here. So you can see it here. Really cool. I brought in my Christmas cactus over here, or whatever kind of cactus it is. It's doing well. Brought in my Ficus cutting of a cutting. It's way back there. You probably can't see it too well, but it's back there. Yeah, just to fill out the greenhouse a little more, some of the empty spaces. I was also clearing out my other greenhouse. I'll show you that. So we'll head into the other greenhouse now. I fixed the plastic up top here so it's holding heat a lot better. I cleared out the floor space here, so now I can walk in here. I still have a couple of succulents in here on the floor, but just those two. And I moved everything else up on the benches, so I'm trying to get ready for the colder weather. So, you know, eventually I'll have to bring all my tropicals, start bringing them in the plant room or have them out in the greenhouses to keep them warm at night, because eventually we'll get some frost in the forecast. Nothing yet, but it will be coming. The temperature in the greenhouse is definitely warmer than outside. Probably by about 5 degrees warmer. So that's kind of good. The temperature outside went to 9 degrees Celsius last night. When I came out here this morning, it was 10 degrees Celsius. And I checked the temperature inside the greenhouse and it was 15. So it looks like it's staying about 5 degrees higher than the outside temperature, approximately. Or back inside. So yeah, 5 degrees more than the outside temperature was pretty good, I thought. It sure keeps the plants a lot warmer than if they're just on the benches outside. I also brought in my yucca forest. It was just outside and I thought I better get it out of the rain and get it warmed up. We were just getting rain like constantly, and I don't want the roots rotting or anything on it. So yeah, into the greenhouse it goes. I also brought in my Portulacaria afroforest. This was in the greenhouse out of the rain, but I thought, well, it's going to get more light in the glass greenhouse here. The other greenhouse kind of has that, well, vapor barrier plastic on it, which is kind of cloudy, and this will be much better. It'll get better light in here, and it stays about the same temperature, so it should do quite well in here, I hope. I was looking at the scarring on it behind, you know, on the back of the main tree here. Let's go around here. Can you see it in there? Let me just rotate it a bit here. Yeah, so the scarring is still there. It's kind of healing over. So far, it's looking quite good. No complaints. Let me just move it out so you can see it better. Here's a look at the back of the tree now, where I put these scars on it to look like elephant tusks digging into the African baobabs. So you can still see these scrape marks where I scarred it with the scissors. I won't know for quite a while to see how it heals and as it's growing to see what the trunk texture looks like. So once if it does give me good results and I'm happy with it, I'll do the rest of the trunk and maybe some of the branches a bit. But I don't want to, you know, go scarring the whole thing up if I'm not happy with the overall look of the, you know, the process. So we'll wait a while longer. My plan is to move some of these tropicals underneath the benches so I keep my aisleway clean here. I'll be bringing more trees into the greenhouse as the temperature gets cooler. If there's a chance of frost, everything will have to come into either the greenhouses or the plant room until the risk of frost is gone, or it may stay, who knows. We are getting kind of mid-October. We've had snow in October before, so this is definitely the time of the year where things cool down below freezing. Today in the greenhouse, it's about 16 degrees right now, 74% humidity, which isn't too bad. It was up to 20 degrees earlier today when we had, you know, the sun came out. I don't know, it comes out for like 2 minutes and then it goes away again, rains, and then it comes out again for a couple of minutes. So it's quite pleasant in here right now. It's a nice place to hang out. I was in here all morning. I did a little bit of trimming of some of my trees. I did a bit of pruning to the ficus canopy here on my Ficus Fancy, just so I could get them a little closer together. There was a few shoots that were sticking out like way longer than all the rest that I pruned back. I did that on this one too. I didn't do much pruning, maybe, you know, 7, maybe 8 branches. I just trimmed the tips back on them. Other than that, I didn't do anything. just so I could get them a little closer together, fit a few more trees on the bench. I did some pruning to my Sarissa here also. It had some shoots on it that were sticking way up. There's still some at the back here. I pruned those already. I pruned the tips off, but I could take those back even further. But yeah, it was starting to... There was, again, maybe 10 growing tips that were taking off way more than all the rest. So, you know, I like to grow it out evenly, not have some that just take off and dominate in vigor. So I prune them back. So that's what I did this morning, a little bit of trimming. The roots on the auction ficus here continue to grow really well. Yeah. And the aerial roots are forming on the trunk here. So that's pretty cool. Lots of buds coming on the branches here too. Quite exciting all over. So that's going to look much better when those come out into leaf. I'll get some space cleaned up in the aisleway here, and then I'll pick out a tree to work on today. I moved the trees out of the aisleway and underneath the benches here, and they get quite a bit of light down here. They should do fine until they go inside to the plant room. The sun has just come back out. Oh, it feels so good. It's so nice. I'm going to work on my Nightshade Vine as the first tree for today. So let's get to it. Here's a look at the Nightshade Vine. I left a few branches on it to grow long because it had flowers and berries on it, but now I can prune them back. All right, here I go. So this is the longest branch here. So I'm looking for buds that face outwards, that fan out from the tree, or weed, whatever it is. And I think it looks like a bud there. There's one up here, one here. I don't want this section too long without any change of movement or taper. So I'm going to come back to here. So here I go. Just like that. Yeah, that smells like nightshade. Now, because I left some of those branches to grow really long, some of the weaker branches down below died off. So I'm going to take off the ones that died off. So here's a tip that died off here. This branch died off down here. And this one here. And this one here. So I'm going to try and grow it out more evenly. I'm not sure it's a good idea to let some branches grow long like that. It tends to weaken these smaller branches. Here's another one that's died off. So I lost a little ramification in the tree. So I'll prune back some of these other longer ones now. So this kind of leader starts going back towards the back of the tree. So I've got to find a bud that's on the front here. So I think right here, I'll prune it back to here. And this one, we'll go to here. I can always prune them shorter later on if I take a look at the tree and decide, oh, it's still too long. Oh, this back one's really thick here. I'll go right to here. Like that. And then I have a tall leader here. I'm looking for some buds on the back face. Way back to here. Okay, let's step back and have a look at it now. I'm having a look at the nightshade now. It's probably still too tall. It could come down in height. Yeah, definitely. You don't want like these long straight sections with no change of movement or taper to them. So I definitely have to prune it back shorter. Probably down to about here, just above the pruning point from last time. So I'll do that. That's a little shorter. This one right here is a little long still. It has some division up here. It goes from one branch to two, but I think it's just too high up. I've got to shorten that, do a fairly hard prune on it. Maybe even go shorter on some of these uprights too. I think I will. I'm having a look at it now. The thickest branch is the one coming up here on this side, and it's also the longest. So I think I've got to do a hard prune on that, take a bit of vigor out of that, distribute it among the other branches. So I'll have to prune that back shorter, and it might be a bit of a Hail Mary cut. See what happens. I think that's got it. Yes, that looks good. It looks better shorter too. So next I'll clean up all those suckers that have grown at the base of the trunk. And there's some weeds in there, so I'll clean that area up. All right, here I go. I'll just try and prune them back to the ground level there. Sure likes to sucker, this plant. And I have no idea how long this vine will live for. It's just a weed that grows naturally in this area and climbs up fences usually. It's got those mushy red berries, orange, red, yellow berries on it. And as kids we used to throw them at each other, and you try and make a stain on the other person's clothing. That's what we used to do. And they're poisonous, the berries, so you don't want to eat them. Even though they look delicious, but they smell horrible and they're poisonous, so definitely don't eat them. So this whole soil surface here was covered in liverwort. And so I picked it all out, and then I put this layer of aquarium gravel that Tom from Grow and Clip Bonsai sent me. And that seems to have taken care of the liverwort problem. Just having that gravel on top. The liverwort doesn't seem to like growing in that. I guess it dries out and it can't grow in there very well. So, yeah, it's a good solution. Getting rid of your liverwort problem. All right, let's get the tweezers and pick out those weeds. The sun came out here and it's climbed up to 26 degrees Celsius in the greenhouse, so really, really nice. I'm going to repot this tree in spring into a pot that David made me. It's a really cool pot. It has greens and blues in it, which will contrast really nicely with the berries. If the tree makes it through the winter, of course. This is its third growing season, so I'm having good results with it so far, but I mean, it's not a tree. It's not going to live as long as a tree, that's for sure. I have no idea how long they can survive. But all I know is I really like it. I like the look of it. I think it's a cool plant to have as a bonsai. It flowers, it gets berries, ramifies nicely, grows well. Grows like a weed. It is just absolutely beautiful in here now. The sun has come out. It's just fantastic. It's warm. This is the best place I've ever worked on trees in. Everything's lit up nicely. I brought my hibiscus in too. Put it underneath the bench here. It was getting pretty cold outside for it. And I brought my Bougainvillea in. This cityscape pendulum is looking really good. The leaves are looking really miniature on it. I don't know if I can get a shot of it. I don't know if I move this tree out of the way. There. Yeah, really miniature looking. It's just awesome. I think my nightshade is missing something here. Maybe a little animal or something. That'd look cool. I'll see if I can find something. I'm going to try putting a Land Rover underneath the tree. See how it looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Kind of suits the tree. The nightshade is very hardy, so back out onto the bench it goes, and I'll see if I can find another tree to work on. The next tree I'll be working on today is this Trident Maple that I got from Ray. When we visited Ray last time, he gave me this Trident Maple, and it's still in its summer colors. It hasn't gotten any fall colors on it. Maybe this leaf's just getting a tinge now, but the growing season is pretty well done for it. It would get its autumn colors and drop its leaves. These have to be kept fairly warm in the winter. They can't take really cold temperatures. So I'll keep it in the basement or the cold greenhouse for the winter. So I'm going to prune it back. I don't want to grow this into a giant tree really quickly. I just want to grow it as a small compact tree and kind of just gradually get it a little larger each year. So I'm in no hurry to get a big thick trunk Trident Maple. So the trunk comes up, it divides into 3 here. So typically you want it to divide from 1 into 2. So one of these branches will have to go. I do like tall, straight trees, so I'll definitely keep the center leader. So it'll be either the right-hand branch or the left-hand branch, and the one I keep will be the one that flows upwards the most gracefully. So I don't want a branch coming 90 degrees off the trunk here. So I'm going to look at the 2. Well, they both have an equal angle coming off the trunk, so it doesn't really matter which one I pick. This would probably be the front of the tree because it's kind of leaning forward just a little bit. So maybe I need to look up here. I've got a bud here. That would be a new branch coming forward. So if I kept that one, I'd have one over this side. There's a set of buds here. There's one at the back that's come out. Oh, difficult decisions. I think I want to keep the more slender branch, getting rid of the thickest one. So that's what I'll do. So this one's going to come off. I'm just going to prune it off roughly for now, like this, and then I'll clean that cut up. So in I come with the pruners. I'll just try and make a nice flush cut if I can. Like that. That's perfect. There's a look at that cut. Nice. This is a branch, not the main trunk line, so I'm going to prune it back. I've got 2 horizontal leaves. Then next I have a vertical one and one pointing downwards. So depending where I want to take this branch is where I would prune it. If I want it dividing immediately into 2 horizontal branches, I would prune it off here. If I want it to go straight upwards or more of a horizontal angle, I would prune it here. If I want it longer and take advantage of these 2 left and right buds, I could prune it up here. So I've got to decide. I'm thinking I'll take advantage of this downward facing bud. A new branch will grow here and probably start sweeping upwards. So I'm going to take it right back to here. I'll cut it in between the leaves so I've got some room for dieback. Like that. Now the last cut is just how tall do I want this trunk? And that's a good question. I'm thinking this is a good new leader right here. So I could prune it off right here and then kind of develop more branching. If I start getting up here, it starts to get into a fairly large tree, like a medium-sized tree. You know, by the time you get a canopy, it's quite tall. So I'm going to take it off right here in between these 2 nodes right here. That is it. That is the Trident Maple reduced down to a small tree. If I had wanted to grow this Trident Maple into a large thick trunk maple, I would root prune it, put it in a larger pot, let it grow for a year unrestricted, and just keep root pruning it and just keep letting it grow until the trunk is really thick. Start cutting it for taper. So it would be a long-term process. I think keeping it small like this, I can make quite a nice little tree in, under 5 years. In the springtime, I'll root prune this tree, get the nice radial root spread going, put it in a nicer looking pot, and develop it for another year. So back onto the bench it goes now, back into the cold. The temperature in the greenhouse is now 30 degrees Celsius. It feels beautiful in here. I don't want to leave. I'm going to show you an update to the accent plants that I planted this year, the fern and the grasses. So over here on the bench, here's a look at them. So here's the fern. So this fern, it just grew all by itself in one of my bonsai pots. And it doesn't lose its leaves. I bring it indoors for the winter. So I don't think it's a hardy fern. I don't know what kind it is. Maybe someone out there can help me, but it's beautiful. It just grew all by itself. So that's kind of cool. And here's the grasses. So they're doing really well too. Yeah, they're fantastic. Those were from David, these ones. And the pot is from Wayne. Wayne is the potter for both of these plantings. I like this pot with the fern because the old leaves on the fern over here are that kind of rusty brown color, which matches the color of the pot really nicely. So I like those together. And this one, I picked this pot because it kind of reminds me of bamboo, and I've got these grasses growing out the top, so I thought, it's kind of a cool pot with it. Yeah, so I've got to ask David what I'm going to do with these grasses, if they just die back over the winter or if they have to be kept warm. I'm not sure. But I'll definitely protect the fern in the wintertime. It was really nice working here in the greenhouse today. It was fun working on trees in the greenhouse rather than working on the greenhouse itself. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.